Hi everybody, and welcome to our third MFest event of the day, The Future is Cinema. MFest is a multi-arts festival of Muslim knowledge and creativity run by the charity Maslaha. I'm Latifa from the MFest team, and I'm so excited to introduce this event with what I'm sure we'll all agree is a legendary lineup. So first of all, a little bit of housekeeping. You can use the menu above the video on your screen to leave any feedback that will help us with future events planning. You can also donate to the British Library there if you want to. Social media links for our speakers are just below the video in case you want to carry on the conversation on other platforms. And you'll also see there that there is an option for to put in questions. So please do send through your questions during the course of the event, and we will have some dedicated Q&A time at the end. We'll have our BSL interpreter, Sumaya, here. Welcome, Sumaya, for the duration of the event. And it has been a joy to co-program this event with other cinemas and Anu Henriques from We Are Bridge. So please do check out their work online. And we'll be hearing from Axa Hynes and Jessica Straker from We Are Bridge anyway during the course of this event. So without further ado, I'll introduce our chair, Jessica. So Jessica Straker is a writer, a script researcher and casting director who's been working in film and TV since 2017, starting her career as an associate on critically acclaimed Rocks, which recently won a BAFTA for casting, before going on to help cast the multi-award-winning anthology series Small Axe. Jessica specialises in street casting and authentic representation, helping filmmakers with great stories find honest ways to express them. So Jessica, I'll hand over to you to introduce our incredible speakers.
Thank you, Latifa. So I'm going to talk at quite a slow pace so Sumaya can have some time to sign appropriately. So forgive me if I just sound like I'm really tired, but I would love to make this as accessible as possible. So I am going to be in discussion with a wonderful group of women, and we're going to be talking about the future of cinema, and let's just get into it. So our first person will be Sheila Nortley, who's an award-winning filmmaker who has written and produced and directed several internationally renowned projects, including Zion, Victim, and the feature film David is Dying. In 2013, Sheila produced the independent film Sable Fable, which went on to win Best Film at the prestigious American Black Film Festival awards in Miami, Florida. Her short, Sometimes I Feel, was selected for the Oscar qualifying BAFTA Festival in LA in 2020. Also in 2020, Sheila worked with an award-winning team, including BAFTA and Emmy award-winning Matthew Barrett and BAFTA-nominated cinematographer Miles Ridgway on I Am Mary. And currently, she is producing the forthcoming Netflix TV series Stay Close with Red and Netflix, starring Cush Jumbo from The Good Fight, James Nesbitt from The Missing, Richard Armitage from The Stranger, and Sarah Parish from Bancroft. So, and welcome Sheila to the conversation. We also have with us Axa Hynes, who is an educator and activist. Throughout her career, Axa has consistently worked towards improving positive representation in the arts. Her work is focused on youth improvement through the arts engagement, and it is grounded in providing opportunities for young people, encouraging possibility and nurturing potential. She has worked on a variety of roles, from being an agent to casting to managing youth organizations and arts programs. She also regularly consults on access, equity, and inclusion for arts organizations. In her current role as RADA's Director of Access and Participation, she brings together the work in youth engagement, her industry experience, and her knowledge on social mobility, access to higher education for underrepresented groups. So welcome, Axa Hynes. And we also have two wonderful people who you might know from a really, really great film called Rocks. And first of all would be Kosar Ali, who is a BAFTA-nominated, double BIFA award-winning 17-year-old actress. In 2021, this year here, she won the BIFA for Best Supporting Actress and Most Promising Newcomer, and she is best known for her role as Samaya in the critically acclaimed and BAFTA award-winning Rocks. So welcome, Kosar. And also, last but never least, Tawheda Begum. Tawheda is a 17-year-old actress, best known for her role in the critically acclaimed Rocks, also as Khadija. And I'm really happy to have all of you here with us today. Okay, so we're sort of going to do this in a little conversational style. So feel free to sort of chuck questions in at each other, and I'll sort of make sure that we're en route for the sort of open questions at the end from the audience. But I think in terms of where I'd love us to start is when we think of future, when we think of cinema, it's always this thing of things that we haven't yet attained. But I feel like there's probably things within our lives, things within our dreams that we've already, we hope to just have more industry and in our professional creative careers in that sense. And so I wanted to sort of maybe start off by directing this at the young actresses about experiences or hopes and dreams that you have navigating the industry as hijabi wearing, as women of color, and as just Muslim, and just as people in this very interesting industry that we all find ourselves in. So I don't know, also Tawheda, do you have any experiences or hopes or dreams that you would like to sort of see continue in the future?
So to say that being in Rocks, I felt so well represented as a hijabi Muslim. I feel like it's so important that the industry portrays being a hijabi properly. And I've got so much feedback from Rocks, people telling me that they've really been inspired to wear hijab and they love the idea of hijab. And I'm so happy that that was portrayed like in a very well manner and properly, because sometimes in the industry, I feel like they lack the true representation of the hijab. And I'm just so happy that so many people have come to me and told me that me and Kosar have inspired them to start their hijab journey. And living in a Western world is really hard to adhere to like wearing the hijab properly and such. And I feel so happy that we were able to do that for people.
Just adding on to what Tawheda said, but especially within the film industry, I think there just needs to be more exclusivity within script writing for young ladies who wear hijabs, ladies who are of color, exclusivity within set, not only within the actors, but you know, the crew as well. And I think we just need to break down that stereotype around hijabi young ladies of us being oppressed and what Islam looks like and what the hijab is and what it carries. And I think we can have like main protagonists within stories who are hijabi girls, because they're just like any normal girls, you know, any other films. So that would be cool. And that would be not a dream, but that's going to be a reality that will come one day, I hope.
I feel like, well, I think this is a great time to big up We Are Lady Parts, which premiered this week on Channel 4. I think it's Thursdays at 10 p.m. So the future is starting. We're here, we're not leaving, and we're going to continue. I also would love to sort of move on a little bit. We'll always come back and we'll sort of weave all of these themes into our answers as we move on. But Kosar touched on in terms of making sure things are inclusive and how we need to sort of tackle that. Aksa, I don't know if you want to sort of touch on sort of issues that maybe are currently faced, sort of trying to dismantle those institutional obstacles, like for young actors, but also just for anyone in the industry who isn't maybe the cis-het white norm, or just how the industry views different and other. So it would be lovely to hear that perspective as you're at RADA, which is the drama school.
Yeah. Wow, where should we begin? I think, yeah, as we know, the industry has traditionally been very, you know, a certain type of person. So when we think about inclusion, it's really important to broaden that, because the structures are there in place to actually stop people from entering and to maintain a certain type of person being able to succeed. This is how kind of like white supremacy works. It's there to benefit certain people and to, you know, push down others. And I think particularly when we talk about institutions that have previously maintained these possibilities for certain people to thrive, it's really important that inclusion starts in all areas. So access to auditions, access to agents, conversations with people within the industry, access, you know, into drama schools. So yeah, I think, and as well, just like what you said as well about backstage, it's not just who's at the front, it's who's making the decisions, who holds the power, who's got the keys, who's running these organizations, who's running the sets. And I think the examination of inclusion needs to go through all of those areas, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And like Sheila, I know you've worked a lot in production, and so it'd be interesting if you have anything to add on to that from the sort of once people are through that institution that acts as part of and on set, like what can you add to that?
Before I add to that, I've been bursting just to say like how incredible it is just listening to everyone's journeys, and especially having these two 17-year-old women of color, you know, in their hijabs, just being themselves and just owning what it is they're doing. I've literally been just here like in a bit of a daydream, to be honest, because we're talking about the future of cinema, and it's just here, like it's happening right in front of our eyes, and we're a part of it. So forgive me, Samaya, if I'm speaking fast. I'm just super excited and really happy and honored to be in your presence. But in terms of what we can do from a production perspective, it's exactly what my sis Axa said. It's making sure that people of color, women and other underrepresented groups are taking up space. And this is something that won't be done overnight. It's something that will happen gradually, I believe. But this is, you know, when you get on set, even when you have people of color in front of the camera, a lot of the time people on the other side of the camera are not Black. Or even there are not even that many minority groups. You know, everything from sound recordists to DPs to location scouts. There are so many. It's such a collaborative process, and there are so many people from entertainment lawyers and so on. And I would love to see us. I'd like to see us as execs. I would like to see us as gatekeepers, because you have people who want to pitch stories and you're being told, oh, sorry, we have another similar story on our slate just because there's a Black character or an African character or whatever. So I think it's getting in at every single level, cast, crew, creatively, as well as becoming execs and gatekeepers. Yeah, just owning that space.
Yeah, it's really true what you're saying, like, because with true diversity, like that word's been run through the ringer, but with that true inclusion and representation on all levels in all departments, it's we can catch nuance, we can catch like those biases and those blind spots. Like even if what I found from working in casting, that just having my viewpoint in the room, when maybe sometimes that in casting can be a very white dominant space, I can see blind spots of other communities that I am in communion with in my social life outside, and I might be the only person in that room. So I've had to speak up for like location scouts or something, being like on an email chain, I'll just be like, excuse me. And obviously I shouldn't have to do that because that isn't my remit, but hopefully that in terms of future for cinema for me, I want to sort of be on email chains with different departments and know that something isn't being overlooked because there's someone with the right eyes on there. So you just sort of it's like that,
So you cut out a little bit there, sis.
Wi-Fi.
I think I was just rambling anyway, but I was just saying I want more people from all sorts of different communities that I see in my life on those email chains, on set, and like in my audition rooms and outside of that as well, because it will make better cinema for everyone.
Absolutely.
So in terms of like on screen, like I don't like asking actors to really touch on things, negative things, because I feel like that's on us as like sort of below the line sort of crew members to sort of deal with. But it would be nice to sort of maybe touch on some of the ways in which being on Rocks, you saw things that now you're going to take on as like this is what I've learned and been trained on, and this is what I expect. So was there anything during your time shooting Rocks for either Tawheda or Kosar that you were like, this I want to see this on everything going forward? Kosar, we'll start with you first since we did Tawheda before.
Yeah, I think just the environment on set, you know, like the people you're around, because being on set, as you know, is very stressful sometimes, and people are like, just really stressed out. So to have like just a chill out zone where you feel like everyone's just in this together, and it's like at the end of the day, you know, it's just acting, like we're just making a movie. You get it, no one's life's on the line, and I think people forget that sometimes, like just take a breather and just really be in it together. Because when you do something with such comfort, fun, support, and love, that's when you really create something that can be so amazing, as we know, you know. So I just feel like people need to take a breather and just be in it together more. That's what Rock's done, and look what we've created.
Tawheda, what about for you? Was there anything like specific during the whole process that you were like, I want that in my next iteration?
No, I agree with Kosar, because I feel like the people who were around were so important, and because it was predominantly female, it made me so comfortable. And I feel like we need to see more of that, like people behind the screen, more female people behind the screen, because like I feel like especially for younger females, it's a lot more scary being around a lot of people anyways. And then when it's like female people in the crew, it's so much more comfortable, and it makes a better environment, I feel like. And especially when you're a teenager, you know, you might have problems and you know the normal stuff, and sometimes like you might feel more comfortable expressing them things to a female. So yeah.
Rocks was a 75% female crew, which is unfortunately a bit of an anomaly in our industry, but we hope to sort of set the bar for a lot of us. It was my first production, as well as Kosar and Tawheda, so I know no different, and I expect no different going forward. So let us continue. But I feel like I'm talking too much, so I want to see, has this sparked any questions from the others who you might want to throw out a question to each other? Or
I was just going to add on to what you were just saying about comfortability, and just like, yeah, that is such a special thing that needs to happen when you're on set, so that you as an actor or a designer or creative can do the best job that you can do. And I think there's something really special, like hearing the girls talk about, you know, having female representation, like when you see yourself reflected back in the moment, not just on screen, but in the moment when you're working, then that can help you to relax. And like that's what we want in life, to feel relaxed and to feel comfortable and feel respected when we're working. And so that is just another layer of why inclusion is important. But yeah, I was just thinking about the comfortableness element of it.
Yeah, I agree. Sheila, what about authenticity once the collaborative process begins? Like how do you maintain that on, like your projects are very like based in what feels very community, it feels very true. How do you, once you're, as we said, the crew, there's not as many of us everywhere, how do you maintain that authenticity when you're having to collaborate in that way? And do you have any tips for us or for the audience as well?
Do you know what, it's a thing of, I'm still very much learning, and I think with anyone, you're always still learning. I think sometimes when we come on these panels or we're asked to speak on these panels, we almost feel the onus to be like, here are my 5 tips on how to remain authentic, when I am still figuring it out. Like, I have days when I'm like, am I supposed to speak like this? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to dress like this? And each day you might face challenges and tests, you know, which you just have to, sometimes you pass, sometimes you fail. Do you know what I mean? And with a lot of my like independent projects, I've had that space that the sisters were talking about earlier. I've had that safe space where I can just go in and be myself. Other times in more corporate environments, I've had an expectation where people look at me and think, you don't look like the typical above the line person. You know, they're expecting a white male who's about to retire, and they cannot, it just doesn't make sense that, you're our boss. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then you feel that conflict, you feel that struggle, and it's not my battle, it's their battle. But then you then have to take that on and think, okay, so how do I address your problem to make you feel more comfortable with me? And as I said, sometimes I think I'm not doing that. You know, I'm gonna, there was one day when I'd really just had enough, and we're driving to set, normally you drive to set and they take your temperature when you come in. I'm sure that the girls know. And normally I'd, you know, turn down my music and then say, take my temperature. And that day I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me just be me. And I had my music loud. I'm like, you're going to listen to DMX today, okay? Because that's what I listen to. Why should I have to change who I am? But as I said, it would be pretentious and it would be fake to say that we are always going to be 100% comfortable in our own skin, particularly in a world that we live in, where we're constantly told that there's something wrong with us or we don't belong. But one thing I will say is that there's this concept of imposter syndrome, right? Which is the idea that we, so I'm slowing down for Samaya, the idea that we feel we don't belong and we have this kind of insecurities that we project, which happens sometimes, but we also have to make other people take responsibility for the way they make us feel and understand that we're working in an industry that wasn't necessarily built with us in mind. And therefore, it's not always our problem. Sometimes it is a structural issue, which I think Axa touched on earlier. Sometimes it's the fact that they don't feel we belong. You know what I mean? And the way that we address that is to make sure we belong, make sure we take up space, to make sure when we see our sisters on set, we're like, I see you, I recognize you, I love seeing you win. And we build together and we make something permanent for the generations that are following, even the younger sisters on the panel, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I've had moments where I remember on one project, I thought, let me just come in clapped. Let me come in with my hair like twist and stuff and show you different iterations of Blackness and stand there, do my whole day's work. And so the next person who comes in, be it an actress, who has like, might not have like hair slicked back or whatever, they'll be like, it won't be an issue as much, because it's like, oh, well, Jessica just did a whole project with me and she looked a bit rough. And you know, half the time people are like, love your hair, it looks so great. It's like, wait, these are my inside twists. These are my inside twists, but I'm glad you love them. So it's, doing small acts of like just being like, no, I'm going to show up as me, and in a sense, and I'm going to show you that the work still continues, however I look, whether you're comfortable or not.
And I think that takes comfortability in self as well, which I don't even think is an age thing. You have people who are older who are still not comfortable or confident in their own skin, and then you have some younger people who might be. I think it's just a case of whatever age you are, whatever stage in your career you are. Really, like Kosar said, it's not. Aside from the films, there's so much more to it. You're a person, and where are you in your actual journey of knowing who you are? You know, and once you're confident of that, I think it will be easier to be authentic, rock up anyhow.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think we're sort of marching towards that more and more as more of us feel more comfortable. But in the same breath, as you touched on, Sheila, like if you don't feel comfortable to show up in that way, or some spaces can be maybe not violent, but some spaces can be uncomfortable, so they can be restrictive. It's completely within your if you feel safer just doing your work and not being that person, that's fine. There'll be other people who are trying to do that so you can feel safer and more comfortable the next time. Definitely. I would also, I think it'd be really sort of interesting to speak on how faith and how that leads into a different layer of inclusion, because I've been sort of reading up on the Hulu show Rami, and how on that set they sort of break for prayer. It's very in that sense something I was like, I don't know how we can even get to that point here on a non-Muslim show, or in like, as we'll have to interact on different sort of shows like that. But it'd be interesting to hear from everyone, just in terms of whether it's from a faith perspective or from an identity perspective, sort of representation that you'd love to sort of have more of, and in terms if that's catering on set, if it's just something as simple as like understanding, having language, or even accessibility in terms of interpreters like Samaya. Or are there also any tropes that you've had enough of, that you've seen sort of pop up, where people think they think they're doing the right thing, but actually this isn't working? If anyone wants to jump in, I know that's quite a heavy question.
In terms of like what you said about how can we make it more exclusive on set, I think, like taking into consideration, like, faith of a lot of different people, and people that come from a lot of different backgrounds, not even faith, but just personal preferences. Like someone might say, oh, I'm not comfortable having this mic man tie this around my waist, can I have a woman? It's like, why do we have to go through such a hassle and 20 steps to get that to be in place? Do you know what I mean? I eat halal food, that in order for that to be on set, it should already be on set. I don't have to ask for it and say, hey, can this be on my contract? Do you know what I mean? Like, it should already be there. So it's just like, it's interesting how that's not already taken into consideration, how that's not already part of the plan. And I think going forward, people just need to be more open-minded to how many people there are in this world, you know what I mean? And all the different preferences that come with that.
Definitely. Axel, do you have any insights from like a drama school perspective, or just even in some of the youth organizations you've worked on in the past and the theatres in the past?
I was just thinking off of the back of what Kosar was saying, like, in order to accommodate everybody and the talent that you bring on, just adding additional things in to make sure that things are in place in terms of faith as well. And just thinking as well, like, it's such a like secular industry, and just something that has been coming up a lot at drama schools as well, and just in general, just work life, is the thing about drinking. And my team, at work, they don't drink, and like there are so many people that just don't drink. But within our industry and within the workplace, and just in general, that is a big cultural thing. And so how can you accommodate that? But do you know what I mean? Things that you don't even think about twice, but is such a normal thing, but for other people it's not. And so how can we just make things less of just a bit more normal, and to accommodate different people's needs.
And Tawheda, I want to slightly tilt it on its head for you. Like, is there anything when you're watching and you're consuming sort of, it doesn't have to be just film and TV, but sort of media across the board, is there anything that you get frustrated by seeing in terms of just representation, or just stereotypes and tropes, or anything? Does anything come to mind?
I feel like even in institutions, like even in school and stuff, the things they put out there, like I remember when it was Black History Month, they put some inaccurate facts on like the board and stuff. I feel like it's so like they want to adhere to something that they don't understand. And I feel like it's so frustrating because these are things that they're not doing because they genuinely want to include people. But sometimes I feel like they just do it because they feel like they have to include people. Like it's kind of like an obligation, but it shouldn't have to feel like a chore. It should be something that they actually want to do. I feel like it's so, I don't know, they make it so personalized. And then I don't like, even in my school, there was a big thing about the Palestine stuff going on at the moment. And a lot of the SLT members, matter of fact, all the SLT members in my school are white. So they were kind of not letting us, we weren't even speaking about it, but they're like, I feel like institutions kind of like shut down what you have to say sometimes. And I feel like it's really frustrating because like they tell us we have a voice and stuff, and then they don't let us represent our voices. It's so like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you've touched on something really pressing there in terms of, especially when events happen in our communities and we are supposed to just sort of continue on. And it can be very isolating when you're in very white spaces, as the industry often puts us in, where no one is speaking on something, no one's mentioning, no one's even acknowledging, and you're supposed to continue on. Like it can be something as big and as vital as like Palestine. It can be Black Lives Matter. It can be something as small as, I remember when Toni Morrison died and just looking around being like, no one fucking cares. Sorry, but yeah, that was how frustrating it felt in that moment. But it's strange how those moments of like when it's very performative and they're just putting you on stage in order to sign a quota, but not actually addressing how that affects you in the space. I'd love to sort of like be a bit more positive and happy and like sort of forward thinking in terms of like something that we'd like to manifest in this industry for the future. And I'd love to, I'll give you a moment to think about something. It could be something as simple as maybe a project that you want to see created, or it could be just, as like Sheila touched on, just having more people in a certain specific department. But yeah, I think manifestation is a very powerful tool, and we can really think about what we want to see in terms of across the board. And it doesn't have to be in terms of representation, identity and stuff. It could be as simple as like, I want a load of cartoons or something. So yeah, I'll let Sheila, do you want to start and have a think? Sorry, I got you on the spot.
Well, I was still just thinking about what was just said, actually.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's because of the swearing. I was like, let's just
it makes you want to swear though, sis. It does make you want to swear. So the first thing I would want to manifest is just really following on what Aksa and Tawheda said, because they were touching on, you know, like not having the people there to make those decisions and make people feel safe and comfortable in those spaces. So I would just love to see more Black people again behind the camera. And so in that way, you wouldn't be thinking kind of, oh yeah, like, you know, like what Kosar said about the halal food or things that have to be written in the contract that should, you know, certain things should just happen without it being like a big song and dance and a million emails. If we had people there who understood that world, who understood the faith, who understood the culture, these things would happen. Example, I was working with an actress on a show, and it was a Black actress with really beautiful hair, and she said, she emailed saying, who's going to do my hair? And she said, this is the person who I want. And everyone else was like, why can't she just have a normal hairstylist? Why? And I know it as a Black woman, I'm like, no, like she specifically asked for this person for a reason. I don't care how much it's going to cost, but we need to accommodate. Do you know what I'm saying? But if you don't have people that understand why it's important to someone, then it will just be overlooked and it will just take a whole big song and dance. So I would like to see more, again, more people of color, more Black people, more Muslims, more minorities behind the camera and making decisions. And also I would like to see in front and behind the camera, just a humanization of Black people. I always say when it comes to Black Lives Matter, this is the industry that I work in. This is the way that I can contribute. And I think like with films like Rocks and so on, just seeing Black people living, do you know what I mean? Seeing Black people being happy, seeing Black people in love, seeing Black people, even seeing Black people in pain and it not being Black pain. It's just people. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, just the humanization, I guess, of us and seeing Black stories being told by Black people.
Yeah. Tawheda, any things you want to see in terms of the future in film?
I feel like something that would be so nice is like in the Muslim community, like I know a lot of people are accepting of people being on screen and on film and stuff, but I feel like we need to normalize Muslim people being in films, because like for example, I remember when I was posting about the Rock's release date, some Muslim man like just came onto my page and sent me like a big paragraph of saying why being a Muslim and being in a film is not all right. But because of people like that, there's like a decline. There's not enough people in the industry. And I feel like, I'm not saying that people aren't supportive and stuff, because I know like a lot of Muslim people are, and it needs to be out there. But sometimes I just feel like we need to normalize it a bit more. And even sometimes like people are skeptical about being on there, if it's like permissible and this and that. And as long as you're not doing anything that breaches your religious beliefs and like your moral beliefs, then I don't think there's a problem with it, and that needs to really be uplifted.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a very good point. Axel?
More of this, more of us lot. And yeah, just linking into what Sheila said, I think the thing my focus has been recently is just like behind the scenes and the decision makers, and just more of that and more of those spaces, because then it will help to facilitate the people who are on screen as well. And I think that there's often when people talk about, I had a conversation with an agent, and it's like, oh, what's your organisation doing in terms of like inclusion and equity? And their instinct was to talk about their actors, and it's like, no, I'm not really interested in who you represent at all. I want to know who's your assistant, how did they get that job, and who's your manager. Let's look around the office that's behind you. Who are these people, and what are these roles? So I think particularly, thinking about who's making the decisions, who's in the CC, and who's turning up at those meetings, and having a big push towards widening the access of those roles. People knowing that those roles even exist. Like, people don't know what a first AD is. Well, these jobs, what are they? And so it's such like a really exclusive club. And you only know through certain word of mouth, or because your mum is an actor or your dad's uncle is a gaffer. Big up the gaffers, by the way. So I think over this period of time, just really focusing in on that as well, because a lot needs to be done there.
Kosar.
Just what everyone said, and I know mine sounds silly, but I wish there's more cartoons with just all Black characters. Like, the only cartoon on Disney is Princess and the Frog. Do you know what I mean? And I think I loved cartoons growing up. And I think it's really important for kids to just see themselves represented within that. Because I still watch cartoons. I was watching one just now, I'm not gonna lie. So it's just like, it would be nice to see a girl wearing a hijab, who's the main one, like she's a Disney princess. So that would be nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm here for the cartoons, and it'd be nice to see more. On my side of things, what I'd like to see is similar to what Axa said about some of these parts of the industry are completely unknown or inaccessible, I'd like to see much more diversity when it comes to agents and who's representing, because that creates, as much as I think representation starts on the page with the writing, with agents and who they will put out towards for castings and who they will think will come with their own biases. And that sort of bleeds into colorism, and it bleeds into just not understanding the communities that they're representing. And obviously, I'm seeing the effects of that sometimes when I put out listings for casting. So I would love to have just a bit more, just a few more tones in that specific space, because I think it will definitely affect who gets what and who is seen as like, okay, I'll put up my Black Muslim person for this role, and I can put up this person for this role, and so on and so forth. So that would be really lovely to see on my end.
Question, Jessica.
Yeah.
Do you find that there are less, generally, do you find that there are less dark-skinned Black actresses than lighter ones? Or do you find that they're just not given as much opportunity, or is it just a case of there are not as many out there?
Well, before I answer that, I just want to remind the audience that we're going to sort of go to audience questions in a few moments. So like there's a little bar below that you can enter your questions in. But in terms of darker skinned representation, they are there. I feel like I've seen a lot of, in terms of the graduates coming up the ranks, there's been an influx to me. When it comes to sort of older or more mature actors, I think people need to remember, especially in my industry, people need to remember that there wasn't much afforded to everyone. The roles always went to certain people, and then as they built up more credibility and more experience, then it made it even harder for the other people to fall behind. And so I'm always stressing that when the roles are a bit older, and I'm like, this person didn't have as many options, so that's why their CV looks like that, or that's why they're represented by someone you might not know as easy as one of the bigger agencies. I think it's also really in my personal life, I think it's definitely necessary to sort of make choices that feel that you're sort of being like, no, this will be more darker skins. Or in my personal life, I Black is Black, but in my professional life, I have to sort of make a distinction, especially when talking to white peers, of like, no, this is Black mixed race and this is Black like thing, and you can't, if you want a mixed race younger person, don't then make their mother mixed race unless you're, or like, just things like that to sort of stop that colorism and stop that erasure in that sense. So it's a big question, it's a big conversation, and yeah, I'd love to chat to you about it, but it's a thing where we all have to hope and keep adding to. But I've seen progress, and even there's a lot of wonderful Black casting directors in this space as well. So, as well as other casting directors of color who are coming up the ranks. So I feel like we'll get there. All right. We are moving over to audience questions, and I've got my little. I'm very. What do you call it? I'm feeling very host-like at the moment. I'm in my host energy so, with my iPad. So I'm going to read out some questions that have come through and sort of shoot them to everyone. So this first one, which actually comes from someone called Afi, who might have been in Rocks as well, who says, what was your favorite scene in Rocks? And so I will just let whoever wants to jump in first with that. Who's
I feel like it's so hard to put my finger on one scene, but I remember the last day when we were shooting, we were doing the rooftop scene, and just the whole day when we were filming that, and the scene on the roof, I just love it so much. I don't know, it just really makes me feel like a fantasy child. Like, I don't know, like that's my favorite scene.
Love it. Has anyone else got a favorite scene from Rocks? Kosar, your mouth opened.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. I think my favorite was when we were all in Hastings and we went to the beach, and it was just such a nice and sunny day, and it was so fun. And then we had ice cream, so it's just like a really cute day, and then we watched the sunset. So yeah, and it all just felt very beautiful and real in that moment. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Lovely. All right, I'm going to move on just so we can get some more questions in. This is from Safad. He said, they say, I'm loving this. My question is, what can I do now as a mere university student to tackle this lack of diversity in TV, film, and behind the scenes? I don't know. Sheila, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, so you said he's a university student that wants to...
No, yeah. What can they do to tackle the lack of diversity in TV, film, and behind the scenes? Which I feel like you're taking on a lot there as a uni student. But
I would say definitely just like get stuck in, particularly if you're studying media or filmmaking or anything like that, and you actually want to be in the industry. I would say just go out and do it, and also by supporting. You know, if you're not particularly in the industry, you may still be an audience member, just supporting films that are by minority groups, people of color, etc. That's the main thing I think of, really.
I'd second that. Like, yeah, supporting shows, put it on in the background, on mute, on repeat, just let it play, then let it play again. Like, watch it when it airs and broadcasts at the time, because that really helps. And yeah, what you can do is work with peers, like work with network laterally within whoever's on your level, and make sure that you're making choices with them as well in mind. This is from, they haven't left their name, but they said they would love to hear about Bridge and what was the motivation in starting up Bridge, and where do you see it going? So Bridge alongside other cinemas who curated this panel is a film and TV sort of aftercare extended support network for the inaugural cohort includes Kosar and Tawheda and the rest of the cast of Rocks, which is set up by myself and Axter and a few other team members from the Rocks crew. But yeah, so I'll throw it to you, Axter. What was the motivation in starting Bridge, and where do you see it going?
The motivation. So there's three different areas. So the spark, and the sustain, and the secure. And I think the motivation was around having first-time actors having their first experience and then making a sustainable career for them afterwards. Because often, and I think with yourself, Jessica, and what Lucy had found, is that they brought actors through, but then certain things weren't in place, such as all of the things we spoke about in today's Q&A, in terms of agents, in terms of inclusion, in terms of support. And so that was the kind of origins, I believe, of starting Bridge. It's like a bridge, you know, from your first experience into the industry in a sustainable way, so that it's not just, you know, this one-time opportunity, and that you can thrive and, you know, you can grow within yourself and your career as well.
Yeah, I'd add on, in terms of that bridge, what it's bridging is there is a great gap in between the industry and entrance in, especially if you're coming from a non-traditional route, like the cast did, by being street cast in that way. The industry can be quite elitist and inaccessible in terms of just from the smallest things of just expecting people to be able to sort of navigate and have enough have enough to travel, enough time and money, or even just understanding of London to sort of travel through to auditions, to hooking up and making sure you've got a spotlight, which costs a lot of money, or headshots. These are things that the agencies currently do not offer. You have to pay for yourself. There's a lot in the industry where it feels like if you're not doing, it's your career and you have to fund it, and that's it's not, there's a lot of a chasm that you can fall down into that hole. So we really wanted to make sure that it's as smooth sailing as possible for everyone, every sort of talent we interact with, whether in front of the screen or behind. Sheila, I don't know if maybe you've come across any of those different like chasms that you can just, those potholes you can fall into like along the way.
Absolutely.
To it. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, first of all, that's so visionary, like huge congratulations on launching that. I didn't know about what it is you were doing, and yeah, it's just visionary, like so excited for you. I wondered about if there is a referral system, because I have had that experience where I've had first-time actors, and obviously I'm not an agent or anything like that. I don't particularly work with youth or anything like that, so I didn't, as much as I would try, I try and get an actor a headshot or introduce him to people. But do you take referrals? Say if there's a first-time actor, could someone bring them to you and say, this guy's amazing, can you just, I know, nurture, or how does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a topic at our bridge meeting this week. Yeah. So I think hopefully we would like to get to a place of accepting referrals from agents, from people like yourself.
Yeah.
And so we want to build towards being able to do that, definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. I mean it sincerely, if there's anything I can do to support, what you're doing.
Definitely. And like if anyone wants to sort of get some more information, if you follow us at wearebridgeuk.com, you can find some more information about that in a sense. And yeah, we would like to at some point help more and more people in the industry in that sense.
We have set up, just to say as well, we've set up a writers program at the moment. So that is supporting new writers who are on that journey as well. And so that is kind of through our Spark umbrella strand of what we're doing.
Visionaries. Love it.
Thank you.
We've got a few more minutes left, so I just want to slide in this last question before we wrap up. This is for Tawheda and Kosar. What advice would you give to other teens, young people who want a career in film? Any advice there? Tawheda? I saw your thinking eyes.
I would say just don't be scared. Like, I know it's a very daunting thing, but like be confident, because through your confidence, other people will feel empowered as well. Because like speaking from my own experience, I was really, really nervous, but it's the best thing that happened to me, and I'm so glad I done it.
Wonderful. Kosar?
Just adding on to what Tawheda said as well, like in terms of different opportunities, like within to actually get into this industry, there's different youth clubs. For example, Rada Youth Club, Stratford East, Open Doors. The next stage is a program that happens like once a year, right?
Yeah, once a year.
Once a year. I did it. I think it was incredible and definitely helped me build as an actor and learn a lot about myself and my craft. So there's like little different opportunities that hopefully you can try out and get into. In terms of like other advice, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still looking for advice myself. Like I don't know what I'm doing here most of the time, but like we get there. And yeah, like I hope that helps.
Lovely. Well, we've unfortunately run out of time. I could chat about this for ages, and we've had to skip a few questions. So thank you so much to everyone who's sent in a question. Sorry if we didn't get to it. But yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking with all of you, my good peers. And I'm going to pass back over to Latifa, who'll just wrap up and give some more information about the wonderful MFest.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you to all of our speakers. What an incredible conversation. I don't know about everyone else, but I certainly feel more hopeful about the future of cinema, knowing that all of you are in it at large there. So yeah, thank you to our incredible speakers, Tawheda, Kosar, Sheila, Aksa, and Jessica, and more power to all of you and all of the work that you do. Thank you to our audience, to Sumaya, our BSL interpreter, and to other cinemas and Bridge for collaborating with us on this event. And please stay with us. It's nearly 6 o'clock now, and at 7 p.m. we have a conversation with Nida Manzoor. Jessica mentioned We Are Lady Parts, which came out in Channel 4 last week, and Nida is the director and creator of Lady Parts, We Are Lady Parts. So that conversation is going to be at 7 p.m. with Crystal Genesis of Stance Podcast. So do stick around and come back and join us at 7 p.m. And please do check out our website, mfest.org. We'll be announcing more events in June and July. And we are on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at MFest UK. So I'll leave it there, and I hope to see a lot of you at 7 p.m. Take care, everybody.